Welcome to Wickerson Studios. I have put together the first 16 or 17 models of Euclid's elements and dealing with the propositions in book 1. And as you can see, you've got a lot of geometric control sliding through here, basically coming back to the initial script. So I've listed what it is. Proposition 1, to construct an equilateral triangle on a finite straight line, built the model for that, and allowing you through a range to have fun with what you might want to do with that geometrically. Really beautiful as we step through these iterations. So that's number 1, and we'll just leave it at something interesting like 6, which is a beautiful number. And let's go on to number 2, open proposition 2. These are all available on my GitHub. And what I'm going to do here is kind of play off of ranges as we go and see where I can introduce a range. But you can see this little model here is allowing us to take a look at the proposition 2 to place a straight line equal to a given straight line at a given point as an extremity. And what we can do is we can slide through here and change this kind of protractor or this compass. But then again, whenever you're doing something like this, as you slide through, you might want to throw it through a range. And I think what I have here is the point as it changes. It operates on certain levels. It has to fall so the circles actually touch one another. So you have to play a little bit with those geometries as you go. But at any time there's a number slider, you might want to try your hand at putting in a range, which allows things to be somewhat, the power of a computer. We can go from 0 to 1. Let's put this in here, and there we go. We get a really nice range of these geometries as they kind of explode up and then become what they are. And what I may want to do is take that over to 1 to see what that does as we slide through the other way. And there we go. And it's a little heavy because of the lines. You can always take off the metas that I put on a few of these objects. So just go down here and disable the meta, disable the meta, disable the meta. I would just recommend doing this if you want to work in the ranges and have more data. So there we go. We've got some nice scripts, and now we can go back in and have a look at those sliding through and get some really beautiful geometries to think about what you would drive with this. Now think about lifting and lowering this in a sense. I didn't mean to turn that to 1,000 probably range. I probably wanted that range to go to 1 to 1, negative 1 to 1, not negative 1 to 1,000. And there we go. You get a really nice little geometry pulling that one over. So following the simple principles of Euclid and having this ability to control these can be quite lovely. And if you think about taking these into the third dimension, you can move them up in the z-axis as well and build some beautiful forms. But I think I'll leave it at that. You can see what you actually have control over. So without getting into full details, I just wanted to overview a few of them, what you can do with these. Proposition 3 states pretty simply, for 2 given unequal straight lines to cut off from the greater a straight length equal to the lesser. So this script itself will run through as an iteration. There's the full size, and I'm not sure what I ended up doing here and why it's faltered. I guess what I'm doing, oh, there's a straight line here, and I moved this point down here, so I have to just shift the point down and back. To move this to prove the script. But either way, I can't really remember exactly what I was thinking of this. So we'll just go in to grab the range and soup it up, range from limits, convert one of these over to the B, slide this one into the slider of Y, and you can see how you can start to have these kind of effects of something you wanted to kind of produce. Not too exciting on this one, so I'll probably just leave it. And I think there was an opportunity. I think I'll just leave that one. Not too excited about it. Open 4. Next one, which is pretty interesting. Proposition 4. If 2 triangles have 2 sides equal to 2 sides respectively, and have the angles enclosed by the equal straight lines equal, then they will also have the base equal. So here's the base of that triangle. We're playing around with a few geometries. I'm able to move these 3 points at any point around the circle to produce any triangle I want, but then I can actually test for equality. It only happens when this number satisfies that number. You end up with that true factor. And for all the triangles I could end up producing here, I could take any one of these sliders and crank it through a range, and I think that's exactly what I'll do. So we'll just see. This one will be pretty basic as well. Range from limits. Let's take let's take all of this data with Control Shift into here. Sorry, I just blew that. Oh, it didn't go back. That's a pain in the butt. Let's file open again, 4, and hopefully it didn't save. It did. So now I'm going to fix my scripts and find out where that slider was supposed to go. It was supposed to go into this one, but then that other one was supposed to go into this one. So now I've messed it up. Maybe the radius was loci. This is what happens when I go to the scripts. They are saved on my GitHub, so I can always pull them again, but I did mess something up. Obviously, this one was feeding this one to test it. True, but then this one has to feed into probably another loci. These ones are added. This was the first one. I think this is the third one that I wanted to put into here. That should solve it. There we go. So basically, I wanted to grab these few, have my 3 points, and know when this one matches that the triangle would match. Have a little bit of data down here. It's had some trouble dealing with items from index 2. Oh, another bit of a nightmare. I think I'll move on before I mess up all my scripts. I should save them as something new, but I can always download them. All right, this one I promise we'll get something interesting. Proposition 5 for isosceles triangles, the angles of the base are equal to one another, and if the equal sides are produced, then the triangle under the base will equal to the other one. So as I slide through this one, this will be a very easy one to play with. Nice little sample and a nice little use of the range node. So nothing tricky, but thinking of basic geometries to drive. There you go. What a gorgeous one. Oh my goodness. What a lovely one at that. Just beautiful. If you think of these as actually looking from the top, what a way to gain control of incredible geometries just from the propositions. I love it. Fantastic. And if there's ever a chance of doing something else, and amplifying this and playing with it, then please go ahead and do it as well. And you might want to put it through another range. And if you stay the lines and points, this is going to actually be beautifully fast. There's no profile on Grasshopper 2, so you don't know the speed at which these are running, but pretty exciting. Let's open up another one, 6. So that one I would say was successful. This one's pretty interesting. It's got a little bit of color. Proposition 6, if a triangle has 2 angles equal to one another and the sides subtending the equal angles will also be equal to one another. So you've got your slider through here, which transforms that space pretty beautifully as it undulates through. Very nice and produces that triangle. That could be one we're sliding. This one's just amplifications. And I've done something down here that I'm not sure. It's turned off. I didn't put it through a range, but I must have done something. So I'm just going to take a peek into this one for a second, make it visible. I've got some more details here which actually look pretty exciting. So I think what I'll do is play around with that one, kind of opening up a structure. But before I get into that one, let's just take this slider through. That was the amplification. Let's put this one through that range component. And really to get you thinking, and if you love ranges like this, you're going to want to use ranges in C# or Python to get your scripts going as best as you can. So very exciting. I'm totally excited about this. Look at that form. That's just insane. So let's bring that one down to count so it actually makes some interesting geometries. Incredibly complex as you slide through. Oh my goodness. Probably don't need 10 steps to this one. So let's go in here and grab a number slider and maybe make steps go from 0 to 5. And let's see what that one does. 1, 2. There, it's still producing an awful lot of beautiful data to drive this. Have to wonder where that number is starting to escalate so much. Oh, it's set to 10. There we go. Simplify it to 3 or 5 and take a look at the scripts of what you're generating. Really nice complex geometries if you want to think about those. Just as patterns and milling patterns and shapes, you should start to get some wild ideas. So that was 6. Let's go ahead and open 7, see if we have something snazzy. This one looks okay. Pretty simple. It's just snapping a triangle around, and I have it on very limited decimals just to show that if 2 lengths are the same size, there's no way they can't meet up on the same point on one side of a line. But nothing too fancy here. We could actually take this one and use that as a slider that would go through the same tool again, range. Just think about using C# range and doing the same things. Let's plug this one in here, and there you go. You start to get this nice little range of what's happening, and that's fully playable off of where you want to start and end this. So if you want to script it on both sides equally, you can get these nice forms. And a pretty simple design, nothing too fancy on that one. No real curves or circles taking effect, but still nice to play with. Just keep your other number there in case you want to go back to it. You can always do the same thing here for radius 2. And a simple thing to do would be grab another number slider and range. Sure, what the heck. Let's grab these two. This one, shift this one. Let's copy it. Let's take that range into here. Let's amplify this one to 2 and take a full range into 2. And let's see what happens when we pull that one out. What nice control. Nice little scripting. Crank that one right up to 2. And now we have another iteration as we move that and it snaps to it. Pretty nice shapes. Not sure what you'd end up doing with it, but we can pull that one back to 7. Maybe in the same direction. Think about what you're actually visualizing. Just introduce those ranges into it. Let's go to 8 and keep going. This one's pretty simple, nothing too fancy, but this one, pretty simple proof to say if two triangles have equal sides to two sides respectively, they also have the same base. I feel like we already did that one, but you can see that this triangle can be a couple of different triangles, but it ends up being the same base. I made a connection to this one. Nothing fancy. I'm not even going to bother with the range on that one. Sometimes they seem fairly redundant and simple compared to the other one, and it looks like I'm going to crash. Nope, I didn't. This one has a couple of metas installed on it, so I'm just going to turn off the metas, which I would advise doing if you see any colors on here, because they will make scripts move a little faster and allow for the ranges to be a very fun thing. So let's go into here and let's just throw a quick little range on here. Nice and simple. And you can kind of guess at where this is going. And for those that actually want to get into these geometries and patterns, please go ahead and do it. There we go. I love this one because it's like a beautiful dome that would open up and lift and crack open. I just think that's fantastic. And if you're seeing it go one way beautiful, just turn it back on itself, -1, and see how that kind of flows back to the other side. Really nice patterns because things are offset. So you can take this geometry all the way through. And like I said, this could be a beautiful parametric model that works into 3 dimensions. All you have to do is introduce the Z axis to it or Z axis to it, depending on where you're from. I love that one. 10, we're going to open, see what this one has to offer. It'll be pretty straightforward and simple. The range is already set up, so you just pop it in, and there you go. You get that nice opening and closing that I used on the last one. Nice. And now that I've kind of thought about doing this, I can kind of slam through these. I think I just did 11. Now this one was different. You have a few chances to introduce the range, and here's the range on this one. Really nice kind of range all the way through. And you can also take that through another range, grabbing another range here, pulling that up, putting your 2 in, maybe your 2 here, and your range over, and that should allow you that one plus the other radii, and you should be able to slide a number slider up to 2 or -2, whatever you want. Keep your numbers really small in Grasshopper 2. It might be actually highly recommended. You can see that you can take this up to a larger scale and then slide that one through and start to get some pretty interesting geometries. Now, if you start controlling these points with sites and paths and indexes and trees and lists, you're going to be able to do amazing things with very simple geometry. And if you're somebody who liked, compasses, straight edges, this is what you want to be doing. Let's jump into open 12 because we're almost done. I'm only going to 16. And there we go. This is my little spider game on the wall. I probably will just leave this one because I like the range that I had in it. It's kind of a walking little spider in the y-axis as I go. I have 2 activated. This one already has the range in it, and I can change the kind of count on the web legs, and I can take this and have him kind of walk across. So I made a little model here that just play around with it, and you'll see how this kind of makes sense to script this through, make your spider larger, smaller, and play off the web. So that's kind of fun one. I already made a video of that one. So let's open 13, lucky number 13. There it is, pretty simple. Nothing worth really getting too confused about here. It's mostly just proving a point that the internal angles end up equaling the same. So simple script, I'm not going to spend too much time with it. Number 14, similarly proving that angles are less than an angle that's already in there, depending on where it is that actually this is that they both will add to 2 right angles. I think no matter where they are, or that they're the same. They all add to 2 right angles, 180 degrees. Not too exciting to play with. And 15 and 16 get a little interesting. This one is nice because it actually plays off the fact that the internal that these two produce opposite angles the same no matter where you come at it. And you can imagine that throwing a range in here is just going to make a kind of pinwheel with more hub spokes to a wheel. So I'll probably leave that one. And the last one I'm going to showcase is 16. And that's one that's kind of nice because it's showing you that the obtuse and adjacent angle here and here will always be less than this angle of the extended angle. So the way they write that is for any triangle, when one side is produced, the external angle is greater than each of the internal and opposite angles. So you can play around with that, and that's one that you might want to bring a range into and play around a little bit with. And I left it there, and you still can get some really nice patterns as you go. Like you just don't know. You can't logically kind of think of this way unless you're an absolute genius or a computer. But some nice pinwheel activities, and if at any times you want to take this to an extreme, you can always throw this one through, same thing. You take this range up here, copy it, and throw it through the X, Y, Z and see what you end up with. Really nice patterns. And now you kind of think of things mechanically, and you can scale differently, and you can roll things differently and have things play off and make some really beautiful geometries. The power of this is just your imagination of where you might go. So I think I actually pulled this up in the XY, and that might allow for a little more pinwheel action of what that might be. Once again, think of these drawings as trying to show something in the 3 dimensions. And it's pretty endless. You'll find later in these scripts I'm moving away from lines to visualize things to actually moving into vectors, because Grasshopper 2 allows you to visualize vectors. And so that's another power of Grasshopper 2. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Michael Wickerson, Wickerson Studio.